Can a PowerPoint presentation make you a Formula One driver? Well, probably not on its own, but it certainly played a major role in helping our very special Autosport video guest today make his big break into Formula One. George Russell, soon to be 2019 Williams Formula One driver, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So tell us, your IT skills, how good are they and how did you put them to such good use?
Obviously pretty good, to be honest. No, to be honest, I was going into a meeting with Paddy to start with, and I was writing down a load of notes in my little notebook, and I just thought, well, what's the point in writing it all down in a notebook when I can put it into a bit of a presentation and hand it over to him to go through as I'm explaining it. So that's where the idea came about.
And what did you have in this presentation? What nuggets can you share?
He's not been asked about this before. This is the first time he's ever been asked.
Well, obviously I can't give too much away. What was in there? Other future drivers might steal it. Who knows? Just from a different angle, to be honest, rather than just saying, right, I've won this, I've done this, blah 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 blah.
A CV, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Just a bit more about me personally, my thoughts on how to try and grow a Formula One team. Bit of background on myself, what sort of character I am, and just a different sort of stats, like crash statistics, let's say, or just
how little you've often crashed, basically.
I mean, yeah, I think it's just little pointers on what I think I am as a driver and different stats to back up the results, let's say.
Okay. And what kind of driver are you? What makes you think you're such a good fit for Williams?
Yeah, I guess. No, I wouldn't say I'm a win it or bin it sort of driver. I think that's probably helped me quite a lot to secure like the GP3 championship. And also I learnt that from almost losing my Formula 4 championship is where I kind of had that win it or bin it mentality. And there was myself and a driver, Raoul Hyman, who were going for the championship. We went into the last race and it looked like neither of us were going to win the championship because, we both had coming togethers and we never settled for second. And in the end, in GP3, I think we won the championship by 80 points. And I think if I could only finish third, settle for third or whatever, and I think that's also helped me to be in the position I am today.
Yeah, which is basically the man to beat in F2, Mercedes Junior, now obviously with Williams in Formula One. But you were pushing for the Williams drive even earlier than that, I think, after claiming the GP3 title. So you've obviously had your eye on this seat for a while. Why Williams in particular? Because you've pushed quite hard, as I understand it, to get yourself into that team. It's not like your Mercedes backing has just helped you sail into Formula One. You've had to work quite hard. So why Williams?
Yeah, 100%. I think obviously Williams have a huge amount of heritage and history in this sport, extremely successful over the years. And I think now is a fantastic opportunity for myself to come in and try and start on a fresh sheet of paper for them, sort of a reboost within the team and lift them around. And I think it's just a great opportunity for me to come in, not only to show hopefully how quick I am, but to show what I can do behind the scenes, because I think it's not all about how quick you are, is it? It's
your PowerPoint presentation.
As your PowerPoint proved, yeah, I guess. So, but obviously we're working F1 drivers. You're working with hundreds of people within the factory. And if you want to be a top F1 driver, I think you need to try and, excel in all areas, let's say.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it, because most drivers would just, all through the formulae, would try and look for just the most competitive car they can get themselves into. And obviously the Williams, particularly this year, has not been anything close to being the most competitive. So is it genuinely the case that you see the bigger picture there? You're coming at it from a different angle in terms of team building and showing other areas, rather than just thinking, oh, a year in a bad car, that could hurt me.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and obviously things change so quickly in Formula One. You look at Sauber a few years ago, were nowhere. Now, they're having great results with Leclerc, and it all looks sunshine and glory for them, let's say. So I think, yeah, it's a bit of a longer term thing, really. You've got to look to the future, with Williams hoping to be there for a number of years to come. So I think it's longer term goals rather than short term success, let's say.
Okay, and how's your work gone so far? Have you started working with them? I think you're doing the test in Abu Dhabi, or perhaps
it's looking like there's still nothing confirmed yet. But I spent the 2 last race weekends with Williams in Brazil and Mexico, so that was great, really, just to understand how the team work from a race weekend point of view. I mean, I've spent a number of days at the factory just meeting people and, you know, just introducing myself, because like I said, there's so many people there and I'm not used to it really, obviously.
They're massive, aren't they, Formula One teams compared to what you're used to?
And it was great with Mercedes, for example. I've been there for almost 2 years now or over, and you slowly get to know people, and that just helps build that relationship. So it's kind of something I've wanted to do at Williams, you know, slowly start bringing myself in and just getting to know everyone.
And what lessons have you learned from being in your Mercedes junior role? Because you've obviously been at, is it most or nearly all Grand Prix with them, and you will have followed Lewis Hamilton, now 5 times world champion, quite closely. So what tips have you picked up, or how has that helped shape your approach?
Well, I think I've really come to learn that he doesn't just rely on his natural talent and speed to get him these championships. He's kind of sometimes portrayed as not that interested in Formula One, maybe, when he's off doing his other activities and all
fashion
of that.
shows and stuff,
or what have you. But you know, when he arrives at the track, he is 100% focused and fully committed. And I think what's incredible is how he also just gets the whole team built and hyped for a race weekend. And on top of that, the team know every time he goes on track, he's going to perform. And I think it almost maybe puts pressure on the team that they have to do the job because they know he's going to do the job. So it's just quite an interesting dynamic, really, which I didn't quite realise from the outside.
Yeah, but a good lesson to learn, because that's the kind of dynamic I guess you'll want to try and establish in your new team. We've got Jack Benyon with us too, our F2 correspondent, who's followed your season very closely. So what have you made of George's performances, and you know, what makes this guy stand out from the crowd beyond the fact that obviously he's a quick driver and has won lots of races?
I'm under pressure now, aren't I? Because I'm sat next to him. I can't really say anything bad about him. He's had a terrible season. George has been very consistent all year, and I think that comes back to something he said he's worked on a little bit earlier in his career, that it's not always important to win races. You've got to bag the points. But I think George's earlier season was characterised by quite a lot of problems. We have had some technical problems with the F2 car this year, and it has played a large role in the season. Second half of the season, the problems have started to slow down a little bit. We seem to be getting some upgrades, and the car's picked up a little bit. It's been a bit more reliable, and since then George has been pretty much unstoppable, really. I don't think he's been outside of the top 7 since the Monaco weekend.
Very consistent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you were at Monaco for the first time, and you had a problem in practice, which sort of slowed things down a little bit. You didn't get much practice time and get to learn the track, did you? So
no, did a outlap and the engine blew up, which was not ideal, really, going into a 15-minute qualifying session.
At that track as well.
It's not an easy track to get used to, is it? So yeah, I think after the Monaco weekend, we had Hungary. We had Hungary and Paul Ricard are the 2 places where you've had probably issues since Monaco. And if you take those out of the equation, then George hasn't been out of the top 7. Lots of wins, 6 wins in F2 this year, more than anybody else. And yeah, it's just the stats are just stacking up now, and he just needs to finish the job in Abu Dhabi, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, and what have the team made of him? Because obviously you spend your time in the paddocks and gaining perspective from all over the place. And have they recognised some of these qualities or identified some of these qualities that Williams are so impressed with?
Absolutely. I just thought, actually, sitting on the sofa and listening to George talk about Lewis Hamilton and the way that Mercedes feel a little bit under pressure to do the job for him. And personally, I don't know if George would agree, but I feel like it's a similar situation with ART, because I'm sure George won't mind me saying that he's, demanding is not the right word, but he wants to push a team forward as much as possible, and there's ways to do that, and George isn't scared to say what he thinks should be done, or the direction that the team should go in. And I think the team know once George is out on the track, the car will be as high as it possibly can be, and I think very similar to what you were saying about Lewis in a certain way before. So yeah, I think the team have been very happy with George's performance. You couldn't not be, really. He's leading the championship, and arguably would have won the championship already if it wasn't been for some of the problems we've had earlier in the season. Sebastian Philippe is probably a man of few words, I would say, but he's always keen to say, George has done a good job after the rounds, and yeah, I think there seems to be a really good atmosphere in ART, in all of their teams, in the F2 and GP3 as well. So yeah, I think they've been really happy with what George has done this year, and obviously last year as well, knowing him from that as well.
Yeah, I think again it shows that importance of the extra details, isn't it? There's many fast drivers out there and guys capable of winning races, but it's about the complete package and not underestimating those extra little details and things you can do to help the people around you be better.
Yeah, sure. Especially in F2 and GP3, you've got such little track time, really. you've just got to try and optimise it every single time you go on track. And fortunately for me, staying with AIT from GP3 into F2, it kind of, those relationships were already there, and we could just fully focus on the job and just really build a great team. And we had a really good understanding of what we need from the car to be quick. And I think a difficult first race in Bahrain probably helped us more in the long run than having potentially a slightly more competitive weekend, because we understood the weaknesses and understood what we needed to do to be quick.
I think the lack of data is a big thing for me as well. I mean, F2, you don't get tyre temperatures during the race or anything like that. These guys are literally driving the car on feel. They've got pretty much no data to work with during races. So learning what the tyres are doing and how they're reacting in so many different conditions that we've had this year is really difficult. It's not as simple as it is. We see teams in F1 struggling, and they've got they've got live data during the race of what the tyres are doing, and these guys are struggling but have no data. So to gain a mastery of the tyres in F2 is a very difficult thing, and that's something that George has been pretty spectacular at this year. There's no races I can think of where another driver has come from nowhere and looked after the tyres well enough to kind of take George out of the equation or anything like that. He's been really good on the tyres this year as well. It's a massive part of the championship.
Yeah, which bodes well for your future endeavours in the Pirelli era of Formula 1.
I guess so. But no, you're right. I think it's also what makes F2 so interesting and the racing so great. It's because you've got such little knowledge and little track time in practice to understand the tyres. You kind of go into a race blind, and some drivers are saving the tyres, some drivers are pushing, other drivers, their tyres have dropped off the cliff, and then the racing becomes really exciting. So I think there's been talk, I know previously, about the downforce of F2 and it works well for racing, but it's all down to the tyres, and actually the lack of knowledge has improved the racing. So I don't know, maybe something for Liberty or Formula 1 to take note of, maybe, I don't know.